Hi, friends. Welcome back to the podcast, POD Podcast by Gulshan. And today we have Kamini Lakhani with us. So, when I found out about Zara 27 years back that she's going to have a disability, I didn't know where to look. We didn't have internet. And someone introduced Kamini to me. And she's someone that I have always looked up to. So, I'm so happy that she's here today. And Kamini, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Gulshan. Such a pleasure to be here. Really, really. It's like old friends, getting together, and those years just
Yeah, it's
they
just
just go away.
27 years.
Yeah.
And, Kamini, everyone who was, when I was finding out that, okay, this person has a child with a disability, that person has, everybody was pointing at you, you know. Kamini knows what she's talking about. She is the mom that we need to listen to. So we were all like flocking towards you. And I mean, you were giving us hope because you said there has to be something.
Right.
There has to be a cure. There has to be. I mean, in those days, we were trying to find a cure.
Right. Right.
So, can you just tell us about when you found out about Mohit?
So I found out about Mo in 1992. He was just 3 years old. And in those days, they said the rates of autism are 1 in 10,000. And I'm talking about the pre internet age,
Yeah.
so to speak. So there was very little to go by. And, they told me, okay, diagnosis comes in and then they say speech therapy, occupational therapy, special ed. And so I did all of that. But as a mom, I felt very unfulfilled. I just felt, something's missing. I'm missing a big step in this. And I just didn't feel fulfilled. So in those days I used to live in South Korea, and so we used to travel every 6 months or so to the US to find like what is the best that I can do for him. So in that process, I think I got trained just to look for something for him. So of course in those days ABA was the big thing. And so I got trained at the Lovas Clinic at UCLA. They used to, it was the way they trained, was that I would sit by him. They would demonstrate first and say, do it this way. Now you work with him. And they would teach me and train me and then send me back home and say, okay, now submit videos. And that's how they would kind of give me feedback on my work. So that's how I learned. And so then those thick files of 5 hours of work a day, that's what I did at that point of time. And I tried basically everything that the Western and Eastern world had to offer. So to the extent of craniosacral therapy and swimming with dolphins, biomedical, anything that I could research, anything that I would find that, okay, there's a 10% chance of a little bit of improvement, I would go for it. So that's how the early years were spent. And this went on. And then, of course, I professionally certified as a BCABA in those days. And then, of course, later on in life, that I think that quest, Gulshan, that what can I do for my child? Yeah. And that's what kept me going. And then, of course, seeing other kids and, parents, we are all fellow parents on this journey together.
Exactly.
And it was like, let me do whatever I can.
I mean, you were sharing your knowledge with everybody. But, when they told you autism, had you ever heard this word? Or was
Had
it,
not
was,
heard.
did they say autism?
They said autism, and I had actually just 2 months prior to that, I had read this article in the Reader's Digest about an autistic child. And I don't know how I read that article, but when the doctor said autism, I was like,
Oh, I know what it is.
no,
Yeah.
no, I said, no, this can't be. My son is nothing like this person in the book. I was like, you're mistaken. You've, this is not right. It was those feelings of I can't accept this diagnosis.
Complete denial.
Yeah, complete denial, anger. I think I cried and cried till I couldn't cry anymore.
Why me?
Why? Yeah, the whole why me, and then I was like, okay, now we need to do something.
So, do you remember that moment, when the flip happened, when you went through all these grieving stages? They are grieving.
Yeah, yeah.
And you come to acceptance, and then, okay, this light bulb hits, like, I have to just accept my child,
Right, right.
So when did that moment come for you?
So I think the struggle, Gulshan, continued for a long time. I think everything I was trying was like a coping mechanism. Okay, let me try this, let me do this, let me do this, let me, work on this, let me work on that. I think I just kept myself busy, and at the same time, just offering support to anyone who came,
came
and,
along,
who came along. And I felt that kinship because we're same journey, everyone's struggling. But I think, honestly speaking, till the time Mohit turned 17 and when I came across RDI, that's when I really accepted. I think I was, honestly speaking, I think I was covering it up with a lot of hard work and stuff, which I thought is what it is. But when I came across RDI, it was like, our relationship is important. I'm important. I don't know if you met me at that time in Bombay ever, but those days, I just let myself go. I'd put on so much weight and, went through like just work, work, work. And then when RDI came along, it was like, take care of yourself.
First.
Put on your oxygen mask first. What are you doing? In those days, there were no RDI consultants in India. So RDI stands for Relationship Development Intervention. And there were the US-based consultant would fly down to India, and we would, she would offer her services, and that's what we did. And, when that came, that's when I realized that I have to take care of myself first.
First, yeah.
Before I can take care of him, and then build that relationship. That was so important.
But, just let's go back to when Mohit was young. How was it in the family, with the in-laws, with your parents, with your siblings?
Yeah.
Did they understand? Because, the meltdowns were there,
Yeah.
which he had no control, which you had no
Absolutely.
control, but they didn't understand. They said it's just bad parenting.
So, that people don't understand what ASD is, nor did we, But luckily, the entire family was very supportive, Gulshan. So that was a big plus for me. Of course, there were like, you don't know how to bring him up, or you don't know how to feed him, those kind of things. But that was from a place of not knowing what is going on.
Yeah.
Right? But by and large, very, very supportive, whether it was my in-laws, whether, my own parents. And especially, I have to say, Anil, my husband, because, he kind of held fort. And if at any point of time I would say that I need to go to the US and study this, I want to go for 2 weeks to do this training, he would say, okay, I'll book your tickets, I'll be with the kids, you go. Or we'll come together. And he would make all the arrangements. So I just feel that kind
Of
of support is
and
necessary.
that belief that
Yeah.
you will go there and you'll come back with something.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was like, I don't think I would have been able to do it by myself, because it takes, when they say you need
A
a
village.
village to take care of a child, I think I experienced that,
So when I was finding out about epilepsy, it was so new.
Yeah.
We knew fits, seizures, we knew these words,
Right.
convulsion, but we never experienced it. And, the family was also struggling. We were in India.
Yeah.
We had gone there to speak to the neurologist. So I called this neurologist home and I said, can you just come? What are your charges for an hour? Can you just come and spend 4 hours with us? Have lunch. I called my entire family, my immediate family.
Right.
And I said, okay, whatever questions you have, ask him, because I don't know the answers.
Right.
You all are asking me, but I don't know myself. And I think that was the day when I just broke down and I came to terms with, okay, my daughter has epilepsy and this is what it's going to be.
Right.
It's not going to go away. It's not going. So that's when, and I remember I was bitterly crying and my mother-in-law was trying to console me. And my mother said, just leave her. Let her take it out. Let her cry.
Yeah.
And it felt so good after that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go behind. I used to do a lot of putting a cushion on my face in the night and crying or going into the bathroom. Did you go through all that?
Yeah, I think it's those bathroom spells. They happen, and I feel it's actually grief and crying is a way of cleansing. It's like the analogy they give of this heavy cloud that can't take it anymore and it just pours out. I think it's necessary for us, Gulshan, even through as we're, of course, we're not like grief stricken the way we were in those days while we were coming to terms with the diagnosis. But still, life is difficult.
But what helped you? I had somebody in my life, Sandhya, I don't know if you remember Sandhya Pereira.
Yes.
She had twins with special needs.
Yeah.
So she had come in as a volunteer. She used to work with Zara. And she would make fun of me and she'd say, oh, you're in anger. I said, what do you mean anger? So she's saying, it's an anger stage.
Yeah.
So she took me through all the stages of grieving.
Right.
And she would just laugh and she said, why me? That's where you are right now.
Right.
I said, but Sandhya, when is it going to change?
Yeah.
She said, when you accept.
Right.
Yeah. So and then she said, I said, accept what? What do you want me to accept? In those days, Zara was able to speak and she was running. She could understand a lot more. I said, accept that she has special needs. She doesn't really fit into that bracket. Accept that she's normal. She's not. So what do you want me to accept? And she said, just accept that you are in a difficult situation.
Right.
And it was like this weight had lifted off my shoulders and I said, that's what I need to accept.
Right.
And it was a life-changing moment for me.
Yeah.
And I remember the day I came to terms with it, everyone in the family, my husband, my older daughter, Janai, everybody, were on the same page.
Right.
They were not like walking on eggshells around me and, if we say this, she's going to...
Yeah. I totally get that feeling. I remember I used to be, when we moved from Korea to Dubai, even in those days, I was very sensitive. And if someone would say something, just those flood of tears would start. But, as I went along, Gulshan, and, it's not that, I don't think I can recognize that exact moment that things turned for me, but there came a time where that why me turned to why not.
Why not me? Yeah.
And without, thinking about it exactly, but I just realized there's another aspect to our children. I feel this across the board, that they're highly spiritual and they've come to actually teach us about life.
Yeah.
And I just get overwhelmed when I think of it, because today, if I look at my life and if I think that if I did not have Mohit, what would it be like? It would have been a superficial life. It would have, not to judge anyone or, demean anyone or anything, but I just feel my life has so much meaning, and it's because of this young man.
Young man, non-verbal. For me, Zara, non-verbal, and they've changed our lives.
Yeah.
And in the bargain, so many more lives have been touched and changed. You've been doing it, I've been doing it here.
Right.
It's wonderful that we are blessed. And this why me to why not me.
Yeah.
And then I said, thank God me.
Yes, exactly. Thank goodness.
I used to keep saying why me, and I swear it was like someone asked me, and why not you?
Yeah.
And then I shut my eyes. I said, who would be a better mother to Zara than me?
Right.
And then I went through everyone and I said, no, my sister would collapse. My sister-in-law would not be able. No, not this one. I said, then who? Then me. That's why it's
Wow,
me.
that's beautiful.
And I
Really.
asked this to a lot of new parents, come, that do you, who can be a better,
True.
And they
true.
say, no, not anyone in the family. I said, then that's why you.
Exactly. We're truly blessed, I think, for this understanding of life in a way that we understand it. And like you said, for example, Mo may not speak that much. He will have a little back and forth, but won't go into much detailing. But that honesty, Gulshan, that there are, and I tell everyone in my family knows this, that if there is something that's going on, I go to Mo and I speak to him about it. Because he accepts me for who I am unconditionally. That feeling of being accepted by someone, that comes only from our kids, unfortunately. And I just feel that I can say anything to him. I can unburden my heart to him without being judged.
And that's what they've all of them,
Right.
It's not only your son and my daughter.
Right.
All of them do not judge you. They just,
Exactly.
they live in this moment.
Yeah.
They don't think about the future. They don't think about the past. They only live.
Yeah.
And
Fully
it's-
present.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And everybody is going and meditating for hours and doing things to get there, but they're already there.
I feel so, absolutely. All the kids that I've worked with, I just feel that grace and that their presence. And there were times, when Sai Connections and Sai were on in Mumbai, I would be going through some very difficult days. But I would not show it, obviously, to
But
the
they pick it up.
team. But these kids, they would pick it up somehow. And invariably, on that day, when I was having the toughest day, someone would come and give me a little kiss and go away. Someone would come and pat my head. And I would look at them and say, how do you know? So
They know.
that's that bond and that beauty. And that's when I determined many years ago, Gulshan, that, I will speak up for you all till everyone starts advocating for themselves. I think that's a huge responsibility on us.
And we have to. Someone has to speak up and also give them the opportunity to speak, and
Yes.
just allow them to share their stories. That's what we are doing in these podcast series.
Yeah.
Let them share their stories the way they want to say it,
Yeah.
So a lot of new parents, when they are finding out, they're really struggling in their marriage.
Right.
Yeah, we've been through it. It's not easy. We luckily are, both of us are just so blessed to have amazing husbands, so supportive. Anil in his silent ways, he both.
Yeah. I think they're both silent.
And I mean, because of them, we can do what we do.
Exactly. It is. It's definitely a struggle. And I've seen a lot of couples, struggling with this. Some not able to continue with each other. And, it is it's difficult. I think, understanding what ASD is, what special needs are, what it entails. I mean, no one comes in,
With a book.
with a book to tell us this is what it's going to be like. And nor is there any form of, okay, this is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Most people, I think, would think that this is not what I signed up for. Why am I in this? And that takes a toll on the marriage, on the entire family, actually, the siblings and everything, right? But I think if we can kind of, stay strong through it and say that, can I empower myself? Can I be an empowered mom? I think that would kind of change situations. I also like to talk a lot to the fathers and let them know that it's okay. I mean, we don't have to feel guilty about this. It's nothing that you did wrong, or it's no one's fault. It's just the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what can we do? What is the best that you can do? Even if you can spend some time with your child, play ball with them, take them out, something. It need not be, some, I think some dads are like, no, the wife, it's her responsibility and she needs to do everything. But I think dads also need to take some responsibility, even if it is for a few minutes or some time that they spend with their child. Yeah. And it's everyone's growth separately. And then when we come together, then the family blossoms.
Yeah.
So when I speak to dads and I ask them, like, what do you do for yourself? And same with moms, what do you do for yourself? What do you do for the two of you together? And sometimes I ask them, when was the last time you went out for a meal together? And when I see them looking at each other, I know that they don't have that time or are not actually spending any time with each other.
So even when I talk to the parents and I tell them, when you go out for a meal, do not talk about your child.
Exactly.
You know, the child is at home, being taken care of, leave that. Talk to yourselves, look at each other.
Yeah.
I say these things to other people, but then I have to do it myself.
Absolutely.
We also kind of just let it pass, 1 week goes, second week, then a whole month is gone, next month. And I say, Zai, we need to reconnect.
Yeah.
Now because of this OTTs, all we do is, okay, comes from work, sits and let's watch but that's not communication.
Exactly.
We're not communicating. We're not even looking at each other.
Yeah.
So when we have a meal, at least we're making eye contact.
Right.
It's so important.
True. Some of my families, they do this, Gulshan. They have a date night, like once a week. Like Friday nights is for mom and dad to go together.
And it's so essential.
So important. That's how we get to know each other. That's how we understand each other's struggles. So it's not easy to have kids who are differently abled, but at least let's make that attempt to connect with each other, to get to know each other. So that me time is important, the us time is important, family times.
Yeah, with your other kids.
With your other kids. I think that is highly underrated.
Yeah.
So with all the families I work with, I tell them, spend time with your neurotypical child alone.
Yeah.
At least few minutes, or have a day where you're going out with them without their brother or sister.
So, when Janai is 7 years older to Zara, so when she was in school, and when you come back from school, you're just dying to say everything that happened. And, especially when they're younger, when they're older, they don't share so much. So when she would come home all excited to tell me, I was lucky. I had help always.
Right.
So I would tell the nanny, take Zara, go wherever, go down. We lived in a building which had a supermarket. I said, just take her down to the supermarket. Stay there, at least for the next 1 hour, so I can get that time only with, Janai. And then she would tell me everything. And I mean, she's so excited to share.
Yeah. I think that's so needed, that presence, being present with our kids. I think that's a struggle, but being fully present with them, being aware, taking in what they're saying, laughing with them, and it's so important.
And then before you know it, they're married, they're gone, they have started their own family.
Right.
So, but it's really, really important if all the new parents who are listening in, that, spend time with your husband, and your parents, give them that time as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so important because they are grieving as well. We don't understand it.
Yeah.
But now I'm a grandmother, and it would be horrible to watch your child go through a difficult situation. You're grieving with them.
Yeah.
But we don't understand that at that time, it's our journeys are not very easy,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
we have tried to navigate it the best way we can.
Absolutely. And for grandparents also, they are growing older too, right?
Exactly.
And we are their kids. They want us to spend some time,
Yeah.
with them. I think that's very important also.
But then constantly we are being stretched,
Yeah.
we have to do
Yeah.
this. And in the end, I keep telling all the parents, just do what you love.
Right.
I love getting a facial. I love getting a
Yeah,
massage.
yeah.
Go and do that.
Exactly.
When I had longer hair, I used to love getting my hair washed and blow dried. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
So do things like that.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit expensive, but it's worth it.
We
Just
have
do it
to.
for yourself.
We've got to connect with ourselves, Gulshan. And earlier I was telling you that I didn't realize that I was grieving, but one of the things that was a giveaway for me is when I joined the RDI program as a parent, I realized that I had stopped reading. And I'm a voracious reader ever since I've been a kid. But when Mohit's diagnosis came, all the books I read were about
On
autism.
autism.
I didn't read anything else. And then when, I was asked, what do you like to do? What is your me time? And then I said, oh gosh, when was the last book that I read? When did I read? And then I got into it again, reading and writing and things that I loved. And then I knew that now I'm healing. That acceptance came in at that point of time. And as parents, we struggle with guilt, the
Horrible.
that I need to do this, or I haven't put in this much time, or haven't done that. So there's,
Oh, I didn't take him to this one Baba.
yeah.
Somebody
yeah.
said, make him wear this, do this, and then he'll be cured. Or we were looking for all those. I mean, I think if my biggest advice to any new parent would be don't go there.
Yeah.
Stay away from that.
Right.
Right. Because that we are vulnerable. People are just making use of us.
Exactly.
And then we are willing to dish out any amount of money for that.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh my God, what did I just do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you were talking, I was like, yeah, been there, done that, buried, gone, finished, because that is the way it happened.
Yeah.
But I think the younger parents now should really consider
Focus.
our experience and say, okay, it didn't work for them. It's not going to
It's
work
not
for
going to work.
us. So,
I went to a lady in Dubai who said she had a cure for Zara's seizures. So we went to her house. It was really scary. She had all these cats, and she tore paper from a book. She made a grid, and she said, put this under Zara's bed. She took 500 dirhams from us. And we went home. I think we were mesmerized or what. And we went home. We paid her the money, believed that this chit of paper which she's drawn, some lines, and she's called it the grid, and she said this will help her with her seizures and she won't have any seizures anymore. I think that night only she had a seizure.
yeah. Yeah.
It was like,
We've tried so much of all this. It's not going to work. Better to focus on neurodiversity. It's a differently wired brain, and yes, you can do a lot.
and just coming to terms that
Yeah.
this is how my child is going to be,
Yeah. Yeah. Accepting them for who they are.
who they are,
And then, moving ahead.
and not trying to drag them into our world as if our world is really
Right.
beautiful. It's
Right.
not. Their world is.
Yeah.
So we should try and get into their world.
Exactly. And I think when we approach them with respect, Gulshan,
So important.
that changes, everything. That not getting into, I want you to be like this,
Yeah.
but meeting them where they are and saying, okay, this is where you are. Let me walk with you and take you ahead one step at a time. So yesterday I met this one family that I work with, and they came in for an assessment. And we had such a good time. We were with each other for an hour. The hour just flew by. And then he's very verbal, very vocal. And his mother messaged me saying that he said that I had a good time co-regulating with Kamini auntie today. And I was like, wow, mission accomplished. If he's feeling better
Yeah.
by spending that time with me. And he, such a bright kid, Gulshan, he was asking me, so have you told my mother to do these activities with me?
Wow.
And I was like, yes. But he felt that bond, he felt that
Connection. Yeah.
and I think that's what, when we respect them, this is what happens.
And we ask them
Yeah.
for their choices. What do you want?
Absolutely.
Nobody thinks it's important to ask them,
Yeah.
I mean, we're always presuming this is what they would like.
Yeah.
And but is that what they really want?
Yeah.
Ask.
Exactly. And they can teach us. I mean, why should we be the ones trying to teach all the time?
Yeah.
Can we not learn from them? So
Exactly.
honestly, again, yesterday, this little guy, he said he wants to play cards. So I said, okay. Now I know only Flush and those those games. And so I said, you know any games? He said, yeah, I know 7-8. It's like, what's 7-8? I had no idea what it was. So I said, but I'll play with you. He taught me how to play the game. And he was telling me, be careful with that card. You have to hold this. Don't give this away. I was like amazed. So much to offer. But we need to, and not every child is like this, but
No.
every child can be approached with that respect.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm here with you. I accept you for who you are. Now let's move
And they
ahead.
need to feel that respect.
Absolutely.
However old or young or, wherever they are,
Yeah.
we need to respect them.
Absolutely. I
And
think that's the
without that,
cornerstone.
You can't accept them. You can't love them.
Yeah.
The first thing is to respect.
So true. So true.
There was a student of mine when I was at Mawahib. I went out for lunch with him. And it was just the two of us. We were both falling asleep. And I said, you know what, let's just go for lunch. I'm vegetarian. He's non-vegetarian. There were two options in veg in the menu. So I said, can you please choose something for me? It took him 45 minutes. There was just like two things.
Yeah.
And I said, whatever you order for me, I will eat. But he said, nobody has ever asked me to do this.
Just imagine.
So, and he was an adult, he was already 30 something. And he said, they always order for me, nobody asks me. And he was able to read, write, speak.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, today I am asking you not to only order for yourself, but for me as well. And I said, we have all the time in the world. You take your time. So 45 minutes, I said, now I'm dying of hunger,
That's awesome that you gave him that kind of time.
And he went through the menu card back to back again, reading it.
Just imagine.
And yeah, he just could not make that decision because he was never allowed to.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, I mean, before Mawai, till I was there, I would tell him, can you please just order something for me? And he would go through the menu card and he'd say, okay, veg, this, would you, and then he'd come and ask me, are you okay eating a sandwich or do you want a falafel or, a salad? And it was so wonderful that just one time.
Yeah. So lovely. We need to come from that place of being respectful and accepting them. No?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
So, Kamini, when you were in Dubai, how many years were you?
So actually I've grown up in Dubai. So Dubai is home. But then after I had Mohit and we moved to Dubai, I was here for 4 years.
Only 4 years?
Only 4 years
Really?
before moving to India.
Oh my God, it seems so long.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And then we worked on that Kiana Kush.
Kiana Kush, yeah. We worked on a project together. And again, I think, Gulshan, honestly, I think we were like way ahead of our times even then. Like, remember we had in Oasis Mall, we had that band, the Kiana Kush band playing.
Yeah.
We had invited special needs children.
So
and even
Kiana Kush was a group of musicians
Yeah.
who had not actually met,
Right.
and they just came to Dubai
Yeah.
and they performed together. They were I think online they were connecting,
Right.
but they had
Right.
never met.
Yes.
And then they came to Dubai and they said, we want to have these shows
Yeah.
for people with disabilities.
Right.
And then we said, Burj Al Arab.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, not
The,
Al Arab, the
Jumeirah
Jumeirah
Beach.
Beach Hotel.
Yes. Yes.
And we said, we're going to do it there because
Yeah.
that was the biggest stage at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And we did.
And we did. And it was a packed audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. How, I don't know. I mean, it flowed so beautifully. It was such.
And there was
such
no
beautiful
money being
memories.
spent. It was just,
Yeah.
I don't know
We had
how.
sponsors. And oh, yeah. I remember that. It was so beautiful.
And I remember, the families who came in because this was their first music concert. And we said, if your child wants to run, go on stage. That everything was allowed.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was no barrier,
Right.
and nobody did that. In the other shows, yeah, we had kids going up
Yeah.
and playing the tabla,
Yeah.
but otherwise they were just enjoying
Yeah.
the music so much.
Absolutely. I think they love music, and few years after that, when I moved to India, we had a Sonu Nigam show, and we were like, we had again sponsors and rented that whole place and stuff, and we were like,
Who'll
are
come?
they and are the kids going to listen? It was magical, Gulshan, because when he started singing, everyone just sat and listened. And then we realized at that time that music and giving them that space, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah. And Shamak Dawar has 400 people with disabilities on stage at the same time.
Yeah.
And he can get them to dance.
Yeah.
He just believes so much in them.
Exactly.
And he doesn't look at the disability. He looks at them as a person, It's just amazing what there's so much more capability which we don't even know.
Exactly. I totally agree.
And now let's just talk about Mohit. What is he doing now with his life?
So Mo is an artist, and I love the way he works. I think his art has so much meaning.
Yeah.
And I just I remember one day I was feeling very low, and he was painting. So he has this habit of just one glance at me. It's like an X-ray machine, that can tell exactly what's going on. So he looks at me and he has this huge sheet of paper in front of him, and he starts putting in all the dark shades, blue and black and gray and all of that. And somewhere in the middle, so actually no, what he started off with was orange. And whenever he uses orange, we feel very closely associated to Satya Sai Baba. We used to take Mohit as a child over there. And when I see orange, I always say, oh, there's a message coming in, something spiritual for me. And he covered that orange in all these dark shades to the extent there was just one slight slither of orange. Everything was dark. And then again he looked at me. He took this, that jeweled red. He just pressed a whole load of it, and he just put his paintbrush across it and dropped it. And he looks at me and he says, finished. And, for me, the message was so clear that you're being chiseled.
Yeah.
You're being polished as a jewel. That's what it is. It was so profound, Gulshan. And he has these moments where I would just go in and do something, work with him, and I just come away with these messages. So he paints straight from his heart, and this painting.
When did you figure out that he can paint?
Right. So now this happened after I joined the RDI program. So like when we were on the ABA program, it was a lot of what's this, do this, touch this,
Robotic.
all of the things that we ask our kids to do. And so when my first consultant came in, she was like, the RDI consultant, she said, he's very good with imitation. Can you do something that he can't imitate? So that's when I was like, okay, let's just paint, you know. So and I remember putting up these stack of books between us, and I said, you do yours, here's your stuff, and I'm going to do mine, and don't copy what I'm doing. And so he started to paint, and you know how art is like, you get lost, right? So I got lost. I was painting, and then I remembered, oh, what's more doing, and I looked over, and I was like, wow, what is that? It was so beautiful. And mine was, the kiddish kind of draw this, paint this. And his was like so free and open. And that's when I realized that, wow.
And
he
you
can
send them
paint.
to me.
Yeah.
And you were saying this is what he started. I said, give him canvas, give him
Yeah.
a big canvas. Let him paint on canvases.
Right. So, and this was back of old greeting cards,
Yeah.
which we started with, because it was like, I just needed some scrap paper. So this started when, we took a step back and let him be who he is. And that became his expression. So art is his expression. And he's done like thousands of paintings, like literally thousands of paintings. And his work is at
But you're
more.
putting it on merchandise as well.
Yes.
You had that fashion
yes.
show.
Yeah. So we had that fashion show where the some paintings were taken and they put it on fabric and they designed a whole line. So
what was that moment like for you and Anil? What was that?
We were so proud. We were like, look at all this, walking into that whole their area, that showroom, and seeing these stacks of clothes all hanging with Mo's artwork, and it was like, oh my gosh.
And bags.
Yeah, bags and cushions and all of that.
Yeah.
And it was just so wonderful.
Did you ever imagine that you would see this day? No.
I did not imagine. It was nothing that I had planned for. It just emerged just as his self was emerging, or we let his self emerge and stopped interfering,
And just let him be.
Let him be the person he is. And it all started with RDI Gulshan. And his work is found at, if anyone wants to look at his website, it's www.mohitlakhani.com.
We will share that at the end. It is so important.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks, okay, so now her son became, so my child also will be a genius. Maybe it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But you keep trying different things, From time to time, even with us, it's really, really hard with Zara.
Right.
Like, what more can we do for her? What would she like to do? So initially, she used to love watching movies with us. And that was brilliant,
Yeah.
So with Janai, Zahir, Zara and I, that was our, when holidays were on Friday, that was our Friday thing. Go for a movie.
Yeah.
Family goes for a movie. Now she's not sitting in the films anymore. So even we are not going so much to the theater, but we should.
Right.
And we did try with Rocky and Rani. I said, let's just take her. If she doesn't sit, we'll just leave.
Yeah.
And she sat. It's so loud. It's in your face. She was just like, okay, I'm watching.
Yeah.
So she did. Took her for another movie. She wanted to walk out. So.
Right. So we keep exposing. We keep, encouraging them. And let's see what works. And different things, with some kids that I've worked with who are adults. One is he actually has a sales job, and he'll keep sending me messages. Are you interested in buying this from me? And I tell him, no, I'm not. Again, after 10 days, he'll say this new product, So that's so wonderful,
But sales pitch, and it's okay to say no.
Absolutely.
Just because he has a disability, you don't have to say yes to him.
Yeah. So he keeps reaching out, and, so then he's one who's out there. Then there's another of my students, we call him Master Chef. He is amazing, in the way he comes up. Like, you give him an ingredient and he'll come up with a beautiful dish, and we're like, wow, this is awesome. and I have a couple who are bakers.
How did you find that? How did the parent or you who found that he has this talent?
So, what we did, Gulshan, in the RDI program, we work a lot on dynamic intelligence, which is not static, not related to right and wrong, but can we take changes? Can we take, if something changes suddenly, can you take it? And we also believe we have this principle of giving time. Like you said, you gave 45 minutes, which is a very, very long time. But what we do is we let the kids think. If they bring something, we say, okay, what can we do with this? And we just give them time.
Yeah.
We support as needed, but the minimal kind of support so that they take on that responsibility of thinking. And when we open up ourselves, and let that emergence be there, they start showing us who they are and what they like, and that's when it takes off. And, recently I saw a video of this guy with his mom, and she gave him some ingredient and she said, make whatever you want. And he kept adding stuff to it. She said, Acha, you want this? Like, I wonder what you're going to make with it. And he went ahead and he made a different kind of bhajia altogether, and she didn't know this is
where he's going.
Yeah. But then that trust and that, that knowledge that, oh, you're doing, I know something good will come out of this. So what we do is we build that back and forth trust and connection with the parent. And once we build that, then you see their emergence and then they start showing you.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. I wish, more and more parents can connect, with, because before, unless you do that, like I was saying, it's very hard for us to connect with Zara.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting there and to talk to her, we are only asking questions.
Right.
So Zara, how did your day go? What did we never get an answer.
Yeah.
So it's, after a while, how many questions can you ask?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is really difficult.
Right.
So my connection is, if she's sitting, she has a little play area upstairs. If she's sitting on the mat there, I just go, I'm with my phone, but I'm there. And she knows, we make eye contact from time to time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, this is really interesting what I'm watching.
Exactly.
And
that's
and I might share something, I might not.
Yeah.
But but then I say, oh, I wish I could talk more with her.
Yeah.
And I wish I could do more.
Yeah, yeah.
But, there's no way of finding out.
Right.
But with the kids and adults who are verbal, ask.
Right, right. Even those who are not, Gulshan, what we do is, like we work on the foundations of communication. One of the main things that we work on is called declarative language, experience sharing language. So like you were saying, I tell Zara, oh, this is something I did. Or, instead of asking a child, what did you do? If we say, I did this and wait, they might give you some pointer or something, or they might just look at you and smile, which is also a response, right?
Yeah.
So we use a lot of declarative language with them and we build these foundations. And then nowadays, of course, we have AAC, right? Augmentative communication. So they have these screens, the Avaz app, where they can point to stuff and they can kind of share a little bit. I just find that, when we use declarative language, we take them off the spot. So we're not kind of asking them, direct questions, but we're just sharing. The minute we start sharing, that makes the other person more comfortable. That you're not after me for
and
response.
That I have to reply.
Yeah. And if you go to think about it, what are we actually asking? What's your favorite color? What do you like? Of course, those are important. But if we know the answer, then why are we asking again and again? So like we don't normally ask people the same thing again and again.
But
what's
that
your
ABA
name?
was
How
like
old
that.
are you?
Yeah. Say it.
Yeah. And then that parents get stressed. Parents are like on the spot and they're like, we need to ask these questions. What if we just take a step back and share?
Yeah.
you know, and then also engage in a lot of experiences, right? It's not all about language. It is about back and forth communication, but not necessarily language. So if I'm cooking something with someone, someone's just passing me stuff and I'm mixing it, there's a role for the other person also, right? So we involve them like that, and we build that back and forth a relationship of trust. We put them on the spot. We kind of challenge them a bit and say, oh, I've run out of salt now. So then they have to think, and there's no one right answer.
Exactly.
You know, there may be a jar somewhere else, there may be a packet somewhere else. So that's how we push their thinking, and that's called dynamic intelligence. And that helps immensely. Very, very respectful also.
You know, I have to share this with you. So yesterday, right now, the studio where I work with Abdullah is under renovation. So we were working from home. So yesterday, you know, he has asthma,
Okay.
and he ran out of the inhaler. And he said, I think I need to call Talabat to get my inhaler. I said, or you can take my car and go to the pharmacy in the souk, in where I live, because he knows how to drive. He's got a license since the age of 18. But
Lovely.
all these years, I've known him from 2010. He refused to drive to my house or to the studio. He always has a driver.
Right.
But yesterday I said, you know what, I'm not taking you. You know how to drive. You just take your car and just take my car and just go. And he did that. He came back using the, you know, he said, I saved your house, location pin, and I could do it. Today, from 2010, this was the first time that he came in his car by himself.
Wow.
He didn't use the driver.
Wow.
And he said, I can do it. I said,
That's
I've been telling you for the
awesome.
years. For how many
Gulshan,
years?
This is lovely. You know, what you're talking about is you gave him an experience which is very meaningful for him, right? You had him, you supported him. You know, he knows he has, I've seen him with you, he has a relationship of trust with you, right? He was able to act on that, and that made him feel competent. I can do it is a sign of competence. Now, once you have any child, teenager, adult feels competent, they're going to be intrinsically motivated. That's what motivated him from 2010 to now. For a person who's never driven.
No, I mean, he drives to his cousin's house because he knows, he drives to his gym. He knows that road. But this, I mean, he's been coming every single day, and he's so good with his Google Maps.
Superb.
And I said, what? And you know, my colleague Zara, who was there, she said, are you sure? No, let me drive him. I said, no, Zara. What's the worst thing? He'll go to Arabian Ranches too. And that's fine. He'll come back. You know, it's fine.
So it's your confidence in him which gives him that confidence, and he feels competent, and now he's going to be much more open, you know, to going wherever he needs to.
And he said, now I'm going to drive my car every day. I said,
fantastic.
Finally.
Lovely. You hit intrinsic motivation, Gulshan.
Okay, I have no idea about these terms, but
yeah, but just to, you know, do you realize that they don't need an outside kind of reinforcer which comes from house? It's all internal.
Yeah.
It's the way you guided him. I think you're a natural. You're doing all this without actually knowing the terms and stuff, but you're a fantastic guide for him.
Thank you. And it's I can't tell you, it made me feel so good to see his car parked next to my car in the garage. It felt really nice, you know, that he did it. And I didn't make a big thing out of it because I don't want it to stop. I just said, okay, this is brilliant, so you can do it every day, you know. So, you know, it's not like the end of the world what you've done. But it is. It is. For the longest time, I've been telling him, you can do it. You can drive, you know. You can. But he was just confident to go to some places.
Right. So awesome. So good to hear this.
So, Kamini, what would be your message to a new parent whose child is just been diagnosed with autism?
So my message is never, never give up hope. for the newly diagnosed, for the older kids who we feel that we can't do anything about, I just feel, please don't give up hope. There are respectful ways of teaching, and I believe RDI is one of them. Become the guide, for parents to kind of become empowered, they need to become guides to their kids. We cannot outsource this job to anyone else. Yes, we can get help for all the sensory issues and, the other things that they may need. But that building of a relationship, that cannot be outsourced to anyone.
And it has to be both the parents, not only the
as much as
responsibility of the
possible.
mom.
Yeah, it's if dads are involved, it's much easier and it's so much better, and there's so much hope. Everyone can become happy.
And the siblings as well
Yeah,
to join in.
absolutely.
So it should be a full
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. And of course, we take care of siblings as well, make sure that they are adequately taken care of and stuff. And then they become their siblings' biggest cheerleader. Like,
And you keep coming to Dubai. Are you seeing any changes here?
I think Dubai is opened up so much. And, the other day when we were chatting, where you were talking about the different things that are happening, it's just so wonderful to see all of this.
Yeah.
I just feel that, parents taking the responsibility, becoming trained, guiding their kids is the way to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was
Thank
a
you,
pleasure
Gulshan.
talking to you. Thanks. Kamini.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
So I hope you enjoyed this. This was the first parent that we've had on our show. We will be talking to a lot more parents. And thank you. Keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing and sharing. Thank you.